Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about lawfare. Lawfare is the use of legal action and law enforcement to intimidate, damage, or delegitimize an opponent. It is also used to deter an individual's usage of their legal rights. Politically conservative people think it began with Donald Trump and the January 6th debacle. But people think it's like a brand new thing, like, oh, they're using it now, and this is a 2024 thing. Black people in America saw the use of lawfare beginning with the Bacon Rebellion of 1676. It was one of the major turning points in the business of slavery in America. It began with the conquest of the Powhatan Indian Confederation from 1644 to 1646, and the Confederation's lands being distributed to the English planter class. Despite their defeat, Indians formerly associated with the Confederation continued squatting on these lands, which caused the Virginia colonists to engage in warfare against them. The military and political situation was made more complicated by the presence of African slaves who, along with indentured servants, produced the colony's main crop, which is tobacco. Planters looked down upon enslaved Africans, indentured servants, and landless freemen, both black and white, whom they called the Giddy Multitude. Virginia colonial governor William Berkeley and landowner Nathaniel Bacon, who was related by marriage, were both purchasers of former Powhatan land near Jamestown. During the decades of the 1650s and 1660s, a sizable number of indentured servants, black and white, who had completed their required indentured servitude, planned to buy the seized Powhatan land, which was also controlled by Berkeley and his planter class associates. Bacon joined and led these former servants in attacking peaceful Indians to acquire their lands. Berkeley, however, fearing an outbreak war between whites and Indians on the frontier, put Bacon in jail for a few months because of these attacks. Bacon declared himself the leader of the colony's former enslaved Africans and indentured white servants, and the newly landless immigrants from England, Scotland, and Ireland, all of which bonded together because of their common exploitation of the large tobacco estates. Understanding that the promotion of their grievances served his own interest for power and additional land, Bacon used this to march on Jamestown, which was the capital of the colony. With 500 men, he then confronted Governor Berkeley, who escaped. Bacon then issued his Declaration of the People on July 30th, 1676. In this document, he accused Governor Berkeley of corruption and of being pro-Native American. The rebellion lasted through the late summer months. On September 19th, Bacon and his followers returned to Jamestown and battled forces loyal to Governor Berkeley. He forced Berkeley and his followers to retreat, and then he burned the town. Despite his victory, Nathaniel Bacon died of dysentery in the Virginia forest in October 1676. Although pockets of rebels throughout Virginia continued to resist colonial authorities into 1677, the confrontation at West Point with the British Royal Naval gunships effectively ended the rebellion. Bacon's rebellion provoked a reactionary response that accelerated the institutionalization of slavery, in part to hard racial lines and prevent future rebellions. It also began restrictions on gun ownership for American citizens. So you had two things that were happening. You had the business, institution of slavery, and
Yes.
gun ownership laws at the very beginning starting to take form.
No, so the first gun control laws were what they did was like Russell just broke down to. They split them. So they told the indentured servants, the white, if you help us, we will give you land and guns. And the black ones, the black slaves, they're like, you can't have guns. So those are the first gun laws in this country were for slaves.
That
You were
is
not.
lawfare.
And the other laws that come up, we had talked about it in the past, were the misogynistic laws. So if you are white, you're a white woman, you marry a black man, he's a slave, you become a slave. If you're a white man and you marry a black woman, she's not a slave. So literally, if you married somebody, they can become a slave also if you're a slave. Those misogynistic laws, when you read those, they're terrible. And this is what he means by lawfare. They're literally passing laws to enforce
and intimidate.
Intimidate. It's straight up terrorism with the law books. And so So fast forward to now. I used to have arguments with people that were very liberal, Democrats, whatever you want to call it. And this chick, good looking girl, has her master's, smart woman. She's like, and I'm like, look, but you got 3 pit bulls. I'm like, so if they make a pit bull law, you're gonna get rid of your dog? Oh no, I would never get rid of my dog. Then I'm like, well, do you need a gun? Like, oh no, I would never have a gun. That's illegal. I'm like, that how is one legal and the other one not? They're just legal because they're on the
They're
books.
both dangerous.
Yeah, that's my point. Exactly. So you would defy the law for your dog, but you wouldn't defy the law to have a weapon that's an equalizer. You've already been brainwashed. You're toting the party line, if you will. I said you got to be careful about doing that. Like you're saying that because it's a law that makes it just. Laws are not moral. Laws are not just. Slavery was legal at one point. So are you saying that since slavery was legal, you would have a slave? Of course not, because you know right from wrong. And that's the problem. This is how we get mixed up. And this lawfare is deep because you're able to alienate against certain people, or you're able to interpret a law a certain way and have it enforced that way against a certain group of people, and which is what we've experienced. If you're brown skinned, you've experienced.
So then when you look at the institution of slavery, that is 100% lawfare. The 3/5 Compromise, a clause of the United States Constitution that was ratified in 1790, it functioned to legally codify enslaved Africans as part of a human being while simultaneously turning black populations into political tools to be wielded in the service of white interests. The 3/5 Compromise determined that 3 out of every 5 slaves were counted when establishing a state's total population. The total population count was in turn used to determine taxation and representation. Though this law was officially repealed with the passing of the 14th Amendment in 1868, the 3/5 Compromise stands today as an important reminder of how even supposedly objective measures, such as a simple count of the people that live in a country, can be warped by the prejudices of a dominant culture.
So what Roscoe is saying is the North. So you get senators and congressmen based on your population. The North knew the South had a greater population of slaves. So it was the North's idea to make them 3/4 of man. That way, that person won't be counted. So, yeah, you got a bunch of population, but they're slaves. So we'll make them 3/4 a person. And that way, it controlled how many representatives somebody had in Congress and the Senate. That's what it was about. And remember, slaves didn't get to vote. So they weren't worried about the vote. They were worried about the fact that, okay, so you got more representatives because you have more population. So even back then, we were being politically manipulated for, like brother said, the dominant class.
There's another example of this. Redlining. Redlining can be defined as a discriminatory practice that consists of the systematic denial of services such as mortgages, insurance loans, or other financial services to residents of certain areas based on race or ethnicity. The practice of selectively classifying neighborhoods as most likely to default on repayment of a mortgage loan. Lenders would only offer mortgage loans for these houses at above interest rates, knowing that those people would probably default on the loan and they would seize the home, making it a REO, a real estate owned property or bank owned property.
They're dubbed high risk areas, and even today it's still done when you're insurance. So when they see your zip code, they're like, oh, your car insurance is higher because the chances of your car being stolen in that area or the chances of a hit and run in that area is higher. So those are the things. So redlining is legal but illegal. They can't acknowledge that they do those things.
They can't do it based on race anymore.
Well, it's always been done based on race, but they use other things to. Oh, you live in the 5th ward. Oh, you live in this district.
But in the documentation, it cannot say this rate is such and such because you're a different color.
Yep, 100%. I think the only way you can fight that is by bringing up, hey, this is a predominantly Hispanic area. This is predominantly an African American or Black area, and so then I'm being treated differently. And then they end up going to court, and they don't want to do that. So then they'll change your rate if you say something.
So
but
then
if you don't speak up, you're just fucked.
Another example of lawfare is something that happened this year, where the remaining survivors of the Tulsa race massacres were not allowed to receive any compensation. The descendants of the people who committed the crimes in the Tulsa race riots were not required to pay any dispensation whatsoever. This gets even worse when you hear that in the state Senate, they passed laws that did not allow schools to teach about Tulsa and the race riots from the perspective of people who were oppressed.
Yes, the black folks. So you can't even bring it up.
That is lawfare. That's you using laws to intimidate and oppress people.
But here's the thing. We did a deep dive. Roscoe had sent me a recording, and I'm listening to it. What people don't realize, those families are still in charge of Tulsa. And these families that were displaced and done wrong are still there. So they want to make sure that you can't sue them. So you can't even teach it. You can't speak of it. I'm like, that's censorship. How can you sit here and dolly it up as this is a violation of your First Amendment rights? You should have a right to talk about it. You should have a right to teach it. But instead, you're going to pass a law saying that, hey, we can't teach it in public schools. That right there is why you hear people talk about Agenda 2025 and crap like that. One of the things they want to do away with is the current school system. And a lot of black folks are clinging to it. They're like, no, we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do this. I'm like, how you make up your mind? You're pointing out that it's flawed and screwed up, but you don't want to release it. I'm not saying that I like 2025, but I'm saying that that y'all don't have a plan at all. So you're clinging to the thing that fucked you and your family over. That's kind of brainwashing.
Is because they're allowing Democrats to decide these policies that are based on Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. But the problem is that no black community leaders or families are organizing to go to these politicians and say, this is what we want. These are our terms. Instead of like, we'll leave it up to you to decide and we'll just vote on it.
And we agree.
I'm gonna give you a microscopic version of this. So I was at the grocery store and I saw a bag of potato chips, and they said they were $1.99, and this was like a display that says $1.99. But if you look at the display in very small fine print that says if you buy 3 bags, they're $1.99. So I got to the checkout and I rang up as $1.99. And I took a photo of it, and the lady said, zoom into the photo. You see that? She says, it says you have to buy 3. I said, this is ridiculous. $6 for a bag of potato chips. She said, this is the world we live in. I said, stop. I said, stop thinking like that. As long as you think that.
Yeah.
She said, this is the world we live in. I said, the world we live in is the world we deserve. And as long as we give them the power to do that, then that's what they're going to do. She didn't have nothing to say.
Going to give an example, and I hate bringing it up because, I'm not a Trump fan either, but everybody keeps talking about this, and this. But when Ice Cube came up with an idea of what black folks needed in our demands, the Democratic Party would meet with them. Trump met with them. Now, do we get everything that he asked for? Probably not. But when you do get your issues addressed, when you do that kind of shit, we'll never come together and force the ruling party to deal with us adequately. That's the issue. And the world we live in is the world that we make. Somebody made this world the way it is. And you can't just sit here and accept it if you think it's wrong. Look, here's lawfare is very, very profound because it's subtle, very subtle. Next thing you know, you're being oppressed. This is what we always talk about on our podcast, that oppression, if it's done minusculely, minutely, you don't realize that you get used to it and you don't realize that it's a thing. And then when somebody tries to tell you about it, you'll defend it. That's what's going on right now.
The military has something that they use with the military industrial complex. It's called mission creep. And it's when they slowly begin to move into an area. They move some ships, 10 miles off the coast, and they just keep it there. And then they slowly bring some troops in, in a nearby border, and they just wait there, but they're gathering intelligence the entire time. That is the same thing that these politicians are using, is mission creep, but for politics. Same shit.
But But the thing is, like I said, you accept it, and it becomes your norm because you're like, I can't do nothing about it. The- Here's the problem with the situation. Right now, we have a lady running for office, which I have no problem with her being a lady. I have no problem with her color, but I do have a problem with what she says. She's saying, "We will do this, we will do that," but you're already in office. Why weren't you doing those things already? You know, food is too expensive. Who made it that way? Your party is in office. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of the other side. I'm just saying, make sure you point out what this side saying. They're saying what they will do and what they can do,
So
but they're
there's
already
two
in
things
office.
going on. That's inflation and price gouging by
Mm,
these food manufacturers. Food
for
prices have
everybody.
been going up way too fast since 2007, 2008. It just kept going up and up and up. And people push back. But then you have the value of the US dollar just plummeting.
Dwindling. Yes, very good.
And the problem with that is that, it's like that scene from Back to the Future when, he went to 2015 and then he got out the cab and the cab driver was like, yeah, it's $15,000. He's like, $15,000? Like, what the fuck?
But that's a funny shit with like when you be seeing these foreign countries and it'd be like 18 million rubles, and you're like, oh, for real, $12. The fuck? How do you count
Yeah,
that?
Kenya and Tanzania is like that.
Yeah, they fucks with you.
Yeah, Tanzania is
Look,
really bad like that.
look, I think what people don't understand is that the dollar's being manipulated on purpose. Now there are outside forces fucking with it, but there's also inside forces, and that's what they mean by when they talk about short sale. They're literally driving the value down on purpose in hopes that they don't have to pay as much. The same thing when it comes to inflation. You always hear about farmers like inflation. That's because farmers tend to have a lot of loans, and when there's inflation, that means that that the dollar that they borrowed is worth less, and so it actually drives down the price of that combine that they're paying 120,000 for, and people don't get that. So if you are um, what's the word I'm looking for? Loan heavy. Like I said, inflation benefits you, and so that's also why a lot of rich folks, because what they do is what's a die borrow, buy borrow die. They'll buy an asset, borrow against it, and then take out a bunch of life insurance later on. And so if your asset has a lot of money loan against it, hey, you're actually making money in a terrible economy. That's the stuff that we're not taught. We're literally not taught that in grade school. We learn that stuff maybe in college. Maybe you learn that stuff in college because they don't want to make a country of thinkers. They want to make a country of workers. Now they don't even want workers. They want AI to do everything, and people keep falling for this whole thing. This is the lawfare. This is AI is going to do those menial jobs. What the fuck is a menial job? A job nobody wants to do. There's no job anybody wants to do. And what's going to happen is the jobs won't exist. We'll have too many people in here, and we won't be a country. We won't be solvent anymore. We couldn't possibly exist. And then that project 2030 will take place because we will ask for it. Um, like I said, you can't afford to buy a car now. You can't afford to buy a house now. These things are being made. They're making what they say. They're making apartments, 5 apartments for every one house. That's because they want you to live in an apartment, not own it, not have
Because
anything.
they want to control the property. That's why. Because,
Well, they
no,
want to
no,
control
no,
everything.
no, no, but
Period.
listen. By controlling the property, you control people's movements. If you control what people can own, you control sovereignty. If you take away
Yes.
sovereignty, then there is no more freedom. It is impossible to have freedom without sovereignty.
Well, people don't know that they lost it. And that's lawfare. When they went from a gold standard to GDP, then all of a sudden your value is based on your social security number. And that's what they tell you. Every social security number is this, and every country has that. What they're saying is that they made that a law where your social security number is
Dude,
traded on the stock
they
market.
need to they need to like start making $100 gold coins because if they started doing that, or if they started doing $1,000 gold coins, it would be a huge game changer. People
Well,
would see things totally different.
Because your money would have real value. Remember, South Africa has a Cougaran. They weren't allowed over here because they were gold. So you had gold coins over there. Muammar Gaddafi was trying to do the same thing, bring back the dinar, which would have been real gold. It would have been real money, and it would have been backed by the oil in the ground. They're trying to get back to money having real value, and every time it happens, since America is the world currency and it's a fiat currency, we would kill that person or that person would disappear. This time, they're not doing that, and so you're seeing Brexit, and you're seeing all these other different people start their own little United Nations joints about that money, because that's all about our money has real value. The money that you're giving us doesn't have real value. And our money was backed by oil. And that was backed by the oil in the Middle East. Now they're turning their backs on us. And the other one that nobody wants to talk about, Venezuela has more oil than anybody else. That's why they're so powerful. But they don't realize they're powerful, and they're screwing their people over. So I guess you can't eat oil.
Another example of lawfare is COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO was started by the FBI, and is short for Counterintelligence Program. It was started in 1956 to disrupt the activities of the Communist Party of the United States. In the 1960s, it was expanded to include a number of other domestic groups, such as the Black Panther Party, the Ku Klux Klan, and the Socialist Workers' Party. All COINTEL programs were ended, supposedly, in 1971. It was the FBI's COINTELPRO campaign to spy, infiltrate, discredit, and disrupt activists and organizations. And this was all started by J. Edgar Hoover. And this guy had dirt on everybody because he was doing dirt. So therefore, it made him paranoid because he knew that he was a slime ball. And so he saw people either as same as him or lower. And so he was always trying to find dirt on him with his old cross-dressing weird ass.
Period.
Yep. But it was the discovery of this COINTELPRO program that caused public trust in the government to take a nosedive even further. Because now you have this police organization that's supposed to uphold the law, but they're steady breaking the law.
And that's because they were making the laws too, and they didn't care about breaking them. Look, this lawfare is a slippery slope because, like I said, saying something is law means that you're literally saying that it's okay because it's on a piece of paper. Some things just aren't right. The way they took the land from the Native Americans and didn't compensate them is not right. The way they ripped apart families, stole land. You would watch somebody have a successful business and you would destroy it, but because you're white and that's the law? No, that's not fair.
Right. So then that brings us to modern times. And you want to have a look at the Violent Control Act of 1991. That was a bill that was called Safer Streets and Neighborhoods Act. And then it was amended in the 103rd Congress of 1993 to 94 with House Resolution 3355.
House Resolution Bill. I got you.
The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, also known as the 1994 Crime Bill.
Yeah.
The 1994 Federal Crime Bill created tough new criminal sentences and incentivized states to build more prisons and pass truth in sentencing laws. Defenders of this law deny that it created a problem of mass incarceration, a term used to describe the fact that the United States incarcerates more of its people, mostly black, than any other nation in the world. They argue that mass incarceration was a problem before the law was passed. Regardless, they argue the federal government has limited jurisdiction over the problem, as 90% of people in prison and jail are under state jurisdiction. Both parties, at a national level, Democrat and Republican, fully embrace the policies and political posturing that exacerbated the mass incarceration crisis we are trying to fix today. So these people with this cognitive dissonance saying that it existed before. But yet both parties were so full of themselves supporting this. And the current president, Joe Biden, was all over this bill,
Was instrumental
trying to
in that
push
bill
it
passing.
through Congress as fast as possible. And he encouraged Bill Clinton to get this signed. So you have Democrats and Republicans trying to make... See, this is what they're not telling you, is that these politicians were invested in prisons. And that's why they were trying to
They're
push it
rich
so hard,
now.
because they knew they would get rich putting black people in jail. They want to say, oh, well, it's not the federal government, it's the states. But you passed this bill that creates more stricter laws to get people put in prison. So yeah, you are the reason this bill exists.
So let's clarify for the slow people. And I'm not calling everybody slow. What I'm saying is that there's a reason that so many of these politicians are millionaires. A lot of them aren't millionaires when they get in office. In fact, the job pays, what, 100-something thousand? Same thing with the presidency, pays a couple 100,000. But when they leave office, they're rich. That's because they know where to invest their money. So if you invest in a prison, and how's the prison make money? It doesn't make money off the prisoners. It makes money because the federal government will pay for the prison. Like, hey, we commissioned so many millions of dollars for this prison, yada, yada, yada. Well, then that goes to the investors. So now these people who invested in those prisons are making money because they're senators, because they know where, okay, well, look, this company right here is, I'm going to invest a couple $1 million here, and their money grows and it grows. Now Nancy Pelosi, it has $300-400 million, that kind of stuff. And so when we say it, we're telling you that, well, they always say the follow the money. Well, that's what they're doing. They're literally making laws to make themselves richer, and they've been doing it for years. They know when a market is about to exist that didn't exist prior. They know when they're going to do a short sale over here. So when that company goes down, they'll buy the stock really cheap, and then all of a sudden, hey, new management, it shoots up. That's what they're doing, and they want to pass laws so these people can't invest. I don't agree with that, but I do feel that their investments should be made public, and they actually are. They should be made public so you can see where they're investing and you can follow them, and you can perform the same way they perform. You can invest your money in what they invest in and get rich the same way that they do. Because, like I said, if you pass a law saying they can't invest, they will just create another company and you won't be able to find it. So you got to be careful about passing laws, because sometimes you shoot yourself in the foot by passing these goofy laws that feel good or sound good.
But the problem, though, with all of this is that there are industries behind this. Everybody wants to look at this from a legal perspective and don't realize that this is still institutional slavery.
Period.
And all they've done is just monetized crime and punishment. So then you have one side of crime, which is, the black collar criminals, and then you have the white collar criminals who are making these laws to make sure they get the money, putting away the black collar criminals. The black market black collar criminals are the ones that are filling up these jails. They're the reason why they wrote this 1994 crime bill, to find a way to, all right, cool, these guys are going to keep filling up these jails because we're going to keep putting them in jail. Let's make some money off of it. I remember hearing a statistic at the time, it must have been late 90s, that they were building jails for little black boys that hadn't been born yet. I'm like, that's some wickedness.
The idea that I'm going to jail, but that also goes to how law enforcement is doled out, how people are arrested for what they're arrested for. That's why they had to pass that law that remember, powder cocaine would get you a couple months, but crack cocaine would get you a life sentence, that kind of stuff, or get you 25 years. Those are literally laws that are designed. At face value, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's because the white boys are snorting cocaine.
Okay, so this is somewhat unrelated, but it's kind of related. Did you see the whole Tariq Hill,
the
camera,
over. Yeah,
the footage that when he got pulled over? So when I watched it and I said, well, he kind of exacerbated the situation because he put his window back up. And I'm like, dude, first of all, you black in $1 million car. Roll your window down and just comply. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, you can't tell me to do this. And I'm like, dude, you are going to make this situation escalate. And then you have these hothead Latino cops who come from some third world country, and you know what I mean, they got this fucking like douchebag machismo mentality. And there was one cop, if you look at the first guy who pulls him out of the car, he has tattoo on his hand. I'm like, when's the last time you saw a cop with a tattoo on his hand? I'm like, oh, you already on some thug criminal shit.
Mm-hmm.
So then, dude, if he would have kept on, he would have got his ass beat right there. You know what I'm saying? But you see, the crazy part about it is he was like a couple blocks away from the stadium about to go play a football game. I'm like, dude, just be cool, get a fucking ticket, and then go make another 50 grand.
Well, the issue is he even when he did his. I hate when I'm gonna say this to sound so. I hate when dumb niggas try to sound smart.
Okay. So, listen. Yes, he's dumb. He's very dumb. I mean, you can see that's a motherfucker that hates his dad, that don't have a dad in his life. I can look at the way he's acting. It's like, you don't have, the only discipline you have is for sports. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that, you have very little discipline, dude. You need to shut the fuck up and relax.
So when he does a press conference after the game, he was rushing to practice. All his homies try to help him, yada yada yada. But here's the problem: when he was doing a press conference, instead of him just saying, "Hey, yeah, look, I was speeding. I admit that I was doing that wrong, but it didn't warrant me being pulled out the car." That's how you do it.
But he didn't take any accountability.
What he said was, "What would happen if I wasn't Tariq Hill? What would happen if you wasn't Tariq Hill? You probably wouldn't have been in the $1 million car part." But this is where it's a problem.
Okay, so this is the problem. He's got this entitlement shit going on. I'm like, don't do that, man. Like, you gotta diffuse the situation instead of escalate the situation. So now you're back at work and you still just cranking it up. I'm like, you're going about this shit the wrong way.
But like I said, I would have admitted that I was speeding, because that's the whole thing. Everybody said he was speeding. So if you're speeding, that's against the law. That's a little misdemeanor. You should have got stopped. You should have got your ticket, and you should have went on your way. But instead, everybody thinks they're a lawyer now, and this is the problem with the internet. We imitate shit we hear people say on the internet, not knowing what it means in that situation. I just saw a video of a guy up in Utah who was handing out campaign flyers. So this white cop pulls up black guys walking, and he starts talking to him. The black guy is actually, he's like, "Look, you said that there's no soliciting in this neighborhood." He said, "I'm not soliciting. I'm not soliciting by definition." This dude right now, he's soliciting by definition is me asking for money for an activity. I'm not asking for any money. I'm not doing it. And so that cop ended up getting fired or got in serious trouble, because he's like, "Look, I'm not doing what you're saying I'm doing. Once you do your investigation and you find that it's not warranted, you're supposed to back off." These cops don't back off. They look for something else. That is lawfare. What you're doing is using the law to oppress
because
somebody.
Your ego cannot take the fact that you have been outsmarted, and then you're like, I got to find something.
Something else.
Yeah. Now, if you look at the Tariq Hill situation, they were trying to find anything. People that were on the sidewalk, that were just standing there recording it,
filming it, talking, yep.
They said you got to be 25 feet away. The white dude backed up to like 50 feet away. He's like saying, "Move, move." It's like, I don't have to move. I'm not doing anything wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, your job is over there. I don't need to move. Oh, you're under arrest. And I'm like, oh, whoa. You potato head son of a bitch. You don't know the law. You don't know what you're trying to enforce. You're just trying to like brute strength your way through this shit, and you about to brute strength your way into a fucking lawsuit.
Well, the problem is that as a black person, as a person of color, once you get arrested, once you get in the system, they very rarely admit that they made a mistake. I saw the same video. Brother was down in Florida. He worked for a manufacturing company where they made they were making gun parts. So gun parts would come in, they would alter them, whatever. So the black guy don't even notice. It's a bunch of former Navy SEALs. This one guy is a complete douchebag. He calls the police and say, "Hey, the guy walked out with a package. We have it on video." And so these cops.
Who was the black dude in this situation? Was he the cop?
No, the black guy was a worker at that facility.
Mm-hmm.
He worked at the facility. One second. And so since he worked in the facility, he is like a gunsmith kind of thing. You know, I'm altering the parts as they come in. So white guy calls the police, says, "Hey, we got it on video. This black guy left with his package. The package was there and I was not there." So the black guy's working. They come and arrest him, right? So while he's sitting in the police car being arrested, it comes in the mail. It literally gets delivered by the post office right there. And they're like, is this what he was accused of stealing? They're like, yeah. So they come back and they said, "Hey," they apologized to this black dude. They said, "Hey, thanks for getting this report. Thanks for not, you know." He's like, "Look, I knew I didn't do anything. I have nothing to worry about because I didn't do it." But so that guy, they talked about his past. He's a disgraced Marine, all kinds of crazy shit. But that's lawfare. That's using the law to get a desire. And this is the problem when you're dealing with a racist, you can't tell they're racist on the phone. So when they call and say like, "Hey, there's 15 people in my front yard," there could be a problem. But are those 15 people in your front yard because you did something to them, or because there's an actual situation? That's how this shit becomes an act of terrorism, because you want the black folks to fear you. You want these people. You try to get that nigga in line, that kind of shit. And so that's the problem with this lawfare. I gave you an example. You know about this. I told you when it happened. This happened probably 2009 or so. A guy that lives in my neighborhood, I'm lying, 2016, because I think that's when my wife kind of moved up here. And he said, "Hey, Ren, will you take me and my lady to the gun range?" I said, "Okay, cool." So I get ready. I get my gun ready. He calls me and said, "Hey," he said, "get down here right away. Somebody just tried to rob us." And dude used to sell clothes out of his house. So they got him for $1,700, right? So he's upset. He grabs his wife's gun and shoots at the guy.
Hold on. He grabs the guy's gun and shoots at the guy?
No. He grabs his wife's gun. His wife wanted to go to the shooting range so I could teach her how to shoot her gun. So they had packed their gun up. Her gun, mind you, I don't think they were married yet, but they're married now. The black guy is a black guy, a white girl. He's a felon. She's not. So when they're getting in the car, this guy grabs her purse because they were also going to stop at the bank, make a deposit. Got him for $1,700. So of course he grabs his wife's gun and shoots at the guy. He calls me. He's like, "Hey, duct tape, you know, come on down," because I was coming down there anyway. I was going to take him to the gun range. And so I get there, and of course the police are there. And the first thing I say, because Nebraska state law where I live, if you have a concealed carry and you are interacting with police on a professional level, like if a cop says hi to you, you ain't got to say shit. But if a cop stops you for a speeding ticket or something like that, you have to tell them, "I have a firearm on me." So I get there, there's a bunch of cops, and one of them starts grilling me. And I said, "Look, are you asking me a question because you're a cop?" Like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, look, I have a concealed carry on me. I have a gun on my person." And so he's like, "Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know." But then so there was like 5 cops. Like, and then there's one that's, you can tell, new. He's like, "Is your gun registered?" I said, "No, I do not have to register my gun." And this cop does not know the law, so he turns to the other cop, and the cop says, "Yeah, according to the Attorney General, if you have a concealed carry, you do not have to register your weapon in the state of Nebraska." How are you a cop and you don't know that? But this goes back. The reason is an issue because it's lawfare. So when I didn't respond the way you wanted, you started asking more questions, probing me to see if I broke the law. And I'm like, nah. But again, my boy did get arrested that night because, like I said, he was a felon. He was on probation. They revoked his probation. He went back to jail. But unfortunately, that's just.
Did he get the guy that took the purse?
No. Nope. They couldn't find him.
Explain how the purse was taken. Was it the guy reach in the car and grab the purse? What happened? Okay, so they had a Lincoln Navigator. I think his wife might have been pregnant at the time. So he was helping his wife in the car. While he's doing that, dude,
They didn't see him. Dude snatches her purse literally and runs.
And he
So
guess he can't catch this guy.
no, because his wife is pregnant. Like I said, I don't think they were married at the time, but she was pregnant. He's helping her
Leave
literally in
her
the car.
and go and get that $1,700. Bitch, you gonna be okay. I need to go
See,
get this fucking bread.
dude, I would have chased the motherfucker. Instead
100%.
instead he grabbed the gun and shot because he shot. They're
Matter
saying
of
that he
fact,
shot.
hold on. Wait right here. I'm about to take the escalator and run this motherfucker over.
No, no, okay, no, okay, okay. You know where Lafayette Street
Escalate.
is. No, it was a Navigator. It wasn't that. But okay, you know where
No,
Lafayette.
I said escalator.
No, my bad. But you know, if you run between them houses, you're going to hit Hamilton. So this dude ran.
Oh,
You
that's
had to
down
chase
by
him.
that's down near downtown.
No, by my crib, by my old crib. No, I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, over
Yeah, I'm
there off of
talking about
42nd and shit.
42nd to help. So the thing is, if that happened, you have to chase that person.
Mm-hmm.
What he did was he grabbed a gun, shot at him a couple times, and by doing that, they charged him with shooting at a. No, hold it.
Hold on for a second. Hold on for. Let's put you in a situation. What do you do?
I chase. I would chase.
Okay,
Because
okay. Now, but hold on. Slow down. It's like slow the ball down. So then, are you going to chase him until you get close enough? Or are you going to do a New Jack City where you get close enough to this motherfucker, aim at the fucking leg, and then take the leg out?
I'm not shooting at all because okay, all these are relative situations. I keep my gun on me. So if your gun's on you, I'm when you have your gun on you, you ain't got to worry about going back to get it to chase somebody. I just chase. Now,
No, but here's the thing though. I will chase, and then I'm going to get close enough, and then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to like, all right, back at the range. I'm going to aim.
here's a problem with your situation. This is the state of Nebraska. If that guy does not have a gun on him, you don't have a right to shoot. Remember, you cannot shoot somebody to protect your
Hey,
property.
who says this guy is going to have a chance to even tell anybody?
Whoa. What's the one thing they teach cops? You always have a throwdown piece. So I guarantee when they get there, he's gonna have a gun on him. But that's another conversation. Like I said, the problem with that situation was my boy got charged with shooting at an occupied house, which it's like the drive-by law. If you
So
shoot
this
at a
guy was
house,
a horrible shot, basically.
no, that's not it at all. He just
No. See, if I've seen you at the range, if you would have aimed, you wouldn't have hit the house.
Oh no, that is true. But what I'm saying is that's what they were charging
And
with shooting at a
I
domicile.
mean, you know, get a
He
silencer.
was already he was already a
Get
felon.
a silencer.
Look, this is why this goes
That's
back to
why I
your initial
carry a
question.
potato with me all the time, man. I'm not hungry.
No, go back to your initial question. You said would you give chase? I would have to give chase because I know how the world works. If I don't go get my money myself, I'm
It's
never getting
gone.
that money.
It's gone.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to say it like that. Now hold it. Depending on how much it is, if it was $300, I'd probably let it go. But 1,700, oh no, nigga, you catching these hands? You understand me? You catching these hands? I would have like, baby, I left my wife. I would have chased, and my wife would jump in the car and would have met me around the corner. We would have got this nigga. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, this goes. The reason I want to bring these things up because this is what lawfare is. This is when you're using law to do immoral, impractical, or wrong things. Go back to the cop that did not know that I didn't need to register my weapon. He was looking for something on me. I'm like, nah, bro. I'm the homeboy. We were going to the range anyway. Again, I didn't know dude was a felon because if I had known, I probably wouldn't have said shit. So, but that's another conversation. But this is when the cop is probing to find something illegal about you. Nah, bro. I don't have to register my weapon. Um, you get there and now this guy trying to protect his woman who is pregnant, so he's protecting his family. This guy just and he shoots at a guy because he can't leave his pregnant wife, and now you charge him and you violate his probation. That's lawfare. Instead of a judge looking
So
at that,
how long was that guy locked up?
oh my god, I saw him 3 weeks ago. I didn't realize that, so I think he served like 3 more years. I think he served three
What?
years
So he was in
Okay.
there during the time of the vid?
No. I think he. No, this happened. Like I got. I'm trying to think when my wife. I told you 2016. She came out 2012. I think right around, like I said, 2014, 2016. So he probably got out. Oh God, if it was 2016, you're right. He got out right in the middle of the vid. But if it was before that, he probably was out a year before the vid. But he had to finish his whatever his old sentence was. He had to finish. And the only reason I know, I ran into him at the Amazon store the other day, and I'm talking to him, and his son is about 8, and his son is asking, how do you know him? He said, well, the day I got arrested, mommy was pregnant with you. He was explaining who I was. And boom! I was like, oh my God. I'm like, and the kid is like 8 years old. He's like, so I must be bad luck. I said, hey, no, little man, you ain't bad luck. It's not, that's not, none of that was your fault. you know. But yeah, this is a real life situation. This is, that's why I said that whole lawfare thing it's a very profound thing. And what it is using the law as a tool to like you go back to your original statements about modern day slavery. What's it, the 13th Amendment? Remember, it's suspended if you're in prison. So look, okay, so we can't do slavery, it's wrong, but we do have this clause where if you go to prison, you can work for free and we can use your labor. So what they do is they create a whole slave class by having these young black men and young Hispanic men and whatever young, because these young white boys too and white women too, but they have a whole class of people that have the wrong moral fortitude, and they're into the wrong things and into bad things. And then you have rap music and movies that glorify these negative behaviors. Now you have a pipeline to your prisons that when you're in prison, you're a slave. So now you have a whole new slave class that are working for you for free. And then you invest in that prison as a legislature guy or girl or congressman and senator. Now you're a politician making money off negative things. This is what we're talking about. This, like I said, this lawfare thing is profound. It is a tool for terrorism. Again, I told you that situation with that brother was, I can't remember. I felt so bad when I couldn't remember the nigga's name. I'm talking to him. I'm like, I think it's Reggie. I felt so, but I knew the whole. I get home, I tell my old lady. She's like, yeah, I remember I used to buy shoes and clothes from us. Yeah, man, he's out of prison. That's how the conversation went. But this lawfare thing, you got to recognize it for what it is. Just because something is a law does not make it just. Just because something's a law doesn't make it moral. And so even the Constitution says something to that effect that laws that go against the Constitution are void. Laws that are immoral, you have a right to, you have a duty to fight against those type of laws.
Former Democratic U.S. Representative and current U.S. Army Reserve officer Tulsi Gabbard announced she is taking legal action against the Biden administration on Monday, August the 12th of this year, after she discovered she had been put on a Transportation Security Administration, TSA, terror watch list.
Oh, wow.
Gabbard said she learned of being on the TSA's Quiet Skies watch list, a TSA program for monitoring elevated risk to aviation security from 2 TSA whistleblowers. Both her and her husband have been put on the TSA Quiet Skies watch list. She has been put on this list because she is being targeted by her political opponents. This is the most newest representation of lawfare. You see political opponents using the FBI, the TSA, and other law enforcement agencies to oppress, intimidate each other.
Remember under Barack, what they did was, remember they didn't, I want to say it correctly, they audited their competition. So all these Republican companies and all these Republicans, they all got tax audits. So it was a way, even though after the audit they may have been clean, didn't have any back taxes, they weren't doing it to their own party. It was crazy. But that was a thing that happened under Barack. But I can't remember. They had a term for it. Forgive me. But again, lawfare is how my brother was describe it. That's lawfare. You're using the law to oppress somebody.
They're also using the FBI to intimidate journalists. There was this guy, Scott Ritter, who appeared on Russia Today, RT, and he had his house raided by the FBI. They took artwork off the walls. He wasn't arrested, and this was just done because he was on there being critical of politicians in the United States. So they're doing the same things that Russian oligarchs use to intimidate people. Shit is wild. That's another example. What happened to President Trump and these bullshit charges that they put on him about paying a prostitute. So you got all this money you're spending on court to sue him to try and delegitimize his run for president. And you're using these chicken shit charges to try and incriminate this guy. That's another example of lawfare.
Oh, one of the ones most recently in Omaha, they served a no-knock warrant to this brother. Come to find out, had something to do with his baby mama saying he went on. I don't want to talk about how much money he had. I heard that he had a large sum of money and he was a felon. And the baby mama points them to his social media, and they look at his social media, and he's on there flaunting guns and some other stuff. So they do the no-knock warrant. They end up shooting him and killing him. And so now they got to clean it up and say that there was a gun in the house. But the gun was like in another room. He was not going for the gun. There was no gun in his immediate. There was nothing within 10, 15 feet of him. But so after they shoot him and kill the guy, then they go through the house and find like an AR or something. And so again, so now they want to change how they do the no-knock warrant and all this other stuff up here because of this incident. Something else that happens up here, I don't know where it happens, but once or twice a month, if you have people don't understand the difference between a search warrant and a bench warrant. A bench warrant is an arrest warrant. Say you miss a court or violate. So you will have an arrest warrant. But a search warrant, that's the one when they walk up and go through your house looking for somebody. And so people don't know the difference. So what happens is these cops will come to your door. Hey, is such and such there? Is Roscoe there? And your girlfriend, your mom, who don't know any better, they're like, yeah, he's here. Instead of them saying like, no, he's not here. And then they try to say, well, we have a warrant. Then you ask to see the warrant, and it says an arrest. Hey, this is an arrest warrant. I will tell him to turn himself in when I see him. But you do not get to come in my house for that. So we had that problem up here where these cops were showing up trying to search people's houses, or they would get a search warrant for, like, say they're searching for something in particular, like, okay, hey, they're searching for some clothes, but they would look in the dishwasher for clothes. You're like, hey, why are you looking in the dishwasher? You're looking for clothes.
That's another example. This recent incident where 2 FBI agents came to a American citizen's home and attempted to intimidate this person for things that they were posting online.
Yeah, they want to talk to him about his social media post, and he refused to speak to him.
The same thing happened in the UK about a month ago, where they arrested a person for their online media posts. This guy straight handled these FBI agents. He asked for their first and last names, and he asked them to show them their badge with their first and last names on it. They refused to give them their first and last names. Then he asked them, well, am I under arrest? Then they answered no. Then he says, well, I don't have to talk to you then. And then he proceeds to just grill these dudes. What are you coming over to my house for? Why are you even harassing me for this? What I'm doing is not against the law. It's the First Amendment. But this is the lawfare that we're talking about. Them intimidating people, using law enforcement to intimidate people based on things that people are saying.
I think that this is the point that we're always trying to make whenever somebody gets in trouble now. You've had a couple of attempts on Trump's life. What's the first thing they do? They scrub, as they put it, the social media presence, and for good reason. But here's the other part: so the first thing they do is refer their social media. So now, whenever you say anything on social media, it can be held against you. And I'm like, social media is supposed to be entertainment. I feel so sorry for these athletes now, because it's all about image. A kid can say something in high school. It may be racist. It may be sexist. Hell, you're 16. Now you're getting drafted. Now you're on an NFL team, NBA team, and you're trying to get drafted. All of a sudden, they'll bring this. You said the N-word when you were 4 years old. That's not fair.
Even if you don't say anything that is considered malinformation, that new word, if you are having this pro-First Amendment stance, then you may become targeted, or you'll be put on a list or in a category of a person that's considered conservative or right-wing, which you may not even have any of those leanings or beliefs at all, because you're not towing the line, because you are not somebody that can be controlled.
But no, they want to stick you on a terror watch list.
Like Tulsi Gabbard,
Yeah.
who
How,
destroyed Kamala Harris in the debates that they had for presidential primaries 4 years ago.
the issue is that things are being taken out of context every single time. They always lean towards, well, this guy was crazy. This guy did it. Didn't you know? Weren't there any signs? And they're using that to violate your First Amendment right. And here's the thing, social media is not a right. Social media is still entertainment. So when you sit there and try to arrest me, question me, or any of that, how about a phone call? You didn't.
Government will never call you. They'll never contact you. How about to send you a letter first? You know what I'm saying? But here's the deal. How do you know where I live? Then what they're doing is they're using the NSA to find what your IP address is and then track that to your phone and then track that to your bill. Burner phone, people. Burner phones.
Here's one of the funniest things that Roscoe always about. He said, yeah, everybody wants to use that, but who do you think developed VPNs? The CIA. So trust me, you're only hiding from people that don't have the ability to find. How about this? Remember we were kids and they were talking about NWA, how they sent a cease and desist notice or something from the White House from the FBI, and he's like,
that was lawfare.
He's like, where we from? Cops kick your door in. You know, we didn't respond to no damn letter. But that's it. Y'all, I'm an American citizen. Y'all should have contacted. You should have sent me a letter, asked me to come meet you or something like that, or hey, send me a letter and request, hey, do you mind calling this number? We'll talk. Yeah. But you sitting two FBI agents who don't want to identify themselves. Well, you're clearly here. I'm filming you. Well, I don't want to show my ID. They kept saying we don't want to show our ID. He said, well, what's your name? Agent such and such. He said,
well,
so
hold on. You
could
be anybody, motherfucker. You just grown up saying I'm an FBI agent. You could be impersonating an agent.
He said, so you're the only agent such and such in this area? He's like, yeah. I'm like, right there, you guys are being so shady. You're trying to intimidate me.
So they then try to get ahead of this, and they have Hillary Clinton go on a news show interview and call for people to be arrested or detained for what they say online. That is totalitarian government communist bullshit right there.
This is what this episode is about, lawfare. This is when they pass laws for them to stay in power and for them to persecute, terrorize, intimidate, and whatever else to keep you in line, keep us in line. Because I don't want to say you, us, me. They want to make and then at some point in time, you can't even keep track of these laws. There was a saying that free society, the more laws society has, the less free it is. And, you know, one of these guys that showed a law book from back in the day, like they only had so many laws. Now you see a law book now is like this thick. Like it's like 4 or 5 inches wide, and it's 7. The more laws that society has, the less free it is. And it's a way to validate your civilization. Like, hey, you know, we're really civilized. We're really this. We're really that.
But the reason why they have Hillary Clinton get on the news and talk about that, because they want to show that even though this bitch is not an elected official, we're going to have somebody who is the Secretary of the State get out there and say, hey, this is how the government feels. This is how people in power feel. Well, the Department of the State has been on shady shit for the past 60 to 70 years now.
Look, all it is that she's an authority, and she's a big Democrat, and we're trying to let y'all know.
But she's not an authority. She is not in any public office.
Not at all.
She is a civilian.
Hold it. All she is the first lady. She's a president's wife. If it wasn't for Barack making
former first lady.
Former first lady. If it wasn't for Barack
she is the wife of a president who is hiding from public scrutiny in Mexico and just came up here for the Democratic Convention because he might be indicted for having sex with underage kids, fucking around with Epstein.
Look, whenever you ask that Epstein shit, they defer.
Oh, man. Epstein is their N-word.
Well, here's the look. I don't want to get off track. Here's the deal. I just think it's so crazy how these guys will talk out. Like it's one of them talk show hosts. I can't think which one it is, but he made a big deal. He's a big liberal. He's all into this, that, and other. But if you bring up, hey, you are in Epstein Island, he goes nuts. I think it's Jimmy Kimmel, right?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, but I'm like, clear. See, the whole thing is clearly do as I say, not as I do. I should tell you how to live, but in my free time, I'm doing some messed up shit. And that was the point I was making before about having all these laws. The ruling class will sit here and do all kinds of debauchery, all kinds of drugs, all kinds of illegal, immoral, impractical, all kinds of sexual activities, worshiping all kinds of things. But then if you mess up and drop a banana peel in the wrong area, you can go to jail for life. You know, we laugh at the Hunger Games, we laugh at these shows and movies, Squid Games. They keep coming up with these different variations of the same plot over and over. And I'm like, dude, they're trying to prepare you for something. And our biggest issue is that our children will be miseducated. Remember, you need to educate your children because kids will get miseducated in this damn education system. And gradually, and more gradually, and we talked about it earlier in this podcast, it's very gradual how they take away rights and make these things normal to you. Like, oh man, you can't go outside on Thursdays.
Or it's nighttime outside. No, motherfucker, it's 12 noon. Here you gonna tell me it's daytime darkness. It's not sunny outside. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they'll give you these reasons for you not for you to not have freedom, for you not to go anywhere, for you not to socialize with people, for you, and next thing you know, 2 or 3 generations won't go anywhere. They all have electric cars that can be shut off. What
They
happens
live
if a
in
tornado?
15-minute megacities.
Yeah, what happens if a tornado hits that 15-minute mega city? You need to jump in the car and get away. Oh, it's charging. I got to charge for 10 hours so I can go 10 miles. That's that bullshit.
Or you don't have access to your car because you spoke out against the government.
Like I said, this lawfare thing, Roscoe is right on point when it comes to this, and he's telling us that don't subscribe to the fact that a law is anything more than a writing in a book. You know, the only thing that really rules this country is supposed to be the Constitution, but we let all these other little things. There's a term for it. They're not even considered. Half these things not even considered laws. Like speeding, there's another term for it. And these things, we have more and more of them, more and more shackles on us.
All right, so one more time for the people in the back. Lawfare is the use of legal action and law enforcement to intimidate, damage, or delegitimize an opponent or anybody who is outspoken against the government. Look, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Hey, yo, holla back.